You know, with me, the the recovery vein that I'm connected to is primarily the faith-based recovery vein. But you know, the best, probably the most training and hands-on that I ever had was when I left the faith-based recovery scene, as far as being employed there for about 3 years, and I went to work at the Recovery Resource Center. This is back when the RRC really kind of, you know, was in its infancy, and it had just started. So it was, you know, we were kind of all learning how to navigate that down at Cooper Green, and then I was there for about 9 months, and then a position opened up at UAB, ARP, Addiction Recovery Program, and I left the RRC and went over there I was there for right at 2 years. And this is right in the height of the pandemic. So when the pandemic was going on, and uh, I was working at the hospital, you know, recovery programs kind of had to, you know, hit the pause button. They really couldn't take a whole lot of people in because um, just for the safety of, you know, hey, are they bringing in COVID or whatever? But the problem was all the agencies shut down, but the hospital was still open.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, and it was just a real crazy time, man. I've never, during that time, I've never been somebody, me personally, that has really ever struggled with depression or either like being down or just like being sad. Like I just didn't have a whole lot of those times in my life. Like I've lost a lot of people in my life that have passed away, and at those times I would be sad and
Yeah, of
stuff. But I
course.
wasn't just somebody that like
Like a
couldn't
yeah.
get out of bed or something. But man, I'm telling you, during from like March-ish of 2020 for about 2 years, I've probably been the most depressed that I ever have, and it's just because, you know, the political climate in the country was crazy, and I had all these sets of friends. You know, I had this one set of friends that was telling me things like, you know, COVID's fake, the election was stolen. Then I had another group of friends that was like peaceful protests while cities are burning down.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, so I had these two sets of groups of people that were all my close friends that were just coming at me with all this. And the problem is that for some reason we think that the people we're trying to help, our patients, participants, or clients, we think that they care what we care about,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't give a crap,
Mm-mm.
man. You know, they don't care about our political beliefs. They don't care
Mm-mm.
about our religious beliefs. They
Yeah.
don't care about any of that. All they want is help.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
want to know what you can do to help me.
Yeah.
So I was just down in that time, man. But during that time at the hospital was in 2020. No, in 2020, I saw over 4,100 patients doing hospital consults by myself at the hospital. Did over 4,100 hospital consults, and even me and Dr. Leish were talking about this a few weeks ago. That it was just so crazy, man. We were just working such long hours, and we were just constantly seeing people. But during that time is when I really is when, even though I worked for UAB, I was like working for, I wasn't working for like a particular agency, I wasn't working for a faith-based recovery program, or I wasn't working for a clinical program or a transitional living place. I was working for the hospital, so I saw everybody.
Yeah.
And in that time that I was there, I just got to really just see all different kinds, man, every pathway to recovery. Because Recovery 101 is there's many different pathways to recovery. But the problem is, we as people that work in recovery and that are in recovery, we say that, but our lives and the way that we communicate to other
Mm-hmm.
people shows differently. So a long time ago, I realized I'm not trying to get people to join my team. I don't want them to try to get me to join theirs. We just need to learn how to play ball together. And I felt like I just got to see that. You know what I mean? I got to see just people that, that my sole job was to see what I could do to help them in the recovery process. And so my job wasn't to try to see if they were saved or they loved Jesus. My job wasn't to necessarily connect them to a clinical program or a 12-step meeting. My job was to meet them where they were in the hospital room, or either over at Center for Psychiatric Medicine when they were in detox. My job was to meet them where they were and to try to see what I could do to help meet their need right then. And that was probably, one of the biggest growing points for me. I felt like my bandwidth just really increased during that time because I just, it was during the pandemic, man. We were just trying to figure it out,
Yeah.
we were trying to figure out what to do to help people because we couldn't send people somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was going to ask you this, man. You don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but where do you think that? Because obviously, I've been to 7 different rehabilitation centers, man. Faith-based and clinical-based, right? So where, in your expertise and you working through that, where do you think the faith-based can, I won't say fall short, where could they do better? Where could the clinical side do better to ultimately meet the needs of those who need the help?
Yeah, I think that is the $1 million question. I think everybody feels like they feel, so first off, me right now, I'm not being a representative for my faith-based organization.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any of that. I'm just kind of, saying my piece on it. I feel like for the number one problem with faith-based organizations is they read the Bible and they interpret the scripture that God never fails. The Lord never gives up. He's always forgiving. He never fails. And when they read that and they read that the Lord never fails and God never fails and he never gives up, when they read that God never fails, sometimes they feel like they never fail. And once again, treatment 101 is sometimes the program fails the client, and sometimes treatment fails the client, and sometimes the client fails treatment. But I feel like sometimes the faith-based organization, it becomes easy to kind of be like, "Oop, it's the patient's fault. Oop, it's the participant's fault. Oop, the client should have done better." And then again, I feel like on the flip side of it, with maybe the secular programs, for me personally, I believe through my experience that it's the goodness of God and the kindness of people that provoke change in others. Whatever you want to call it, however you want to spin your higher power, whatever you want to do, you can chop it up however you want to. But I feel like on the clinical side that I feel like people are just against each other. Like I feel like on the clinical side sometimes they're like, "Oh, yeah, we don't refer to faith-based, or we don't try to incorporate any kind of spirituality in our program." And then I feel like on the faith-based side, they're like, "Oh, no, we're not a secular program. We're a Bible-based program." And I just feel like even though things are better nowadays, I feel like sometimes there still is that kind of competition. And listen, man, there's no competitors in this thing. And
No.
yeah, not at all. And I think that sometimes that's what happens is people just kind of act like it's a competition. So I'm a minister as well. I'm an ordained minister as well. So when I sit across from someone needing help, whether it's them and their family or whoever, my role is different than like a medical provider, like a healthcare professional, like a physician or a nurse practitioner, or a social worker or whatever at a clinical facility. They try to help the participant, client, patient from their perspective. My perspective is different because I don't really know any physicians out there that are ordained ministers that are trying to help somebody get into a recovery program. But then if that person passes away, then they go preach that person's funeral. So I do that.
Yeah.
I've had to sit at treatment facilities with people that were coming into the program or either leaving the program, and their family members when they're alive, and then tragically months later that individual overdoses, they don't call the physician or the nurse practitioner to come officiate the funeral. They call the pastor.
Yeah.
So for me, this is why I'm passionate about the faith-based style of recovery, because that when that faith was birthed in me, it was different than anything else I'd ever experienced. And I think that's why I communicate the way that I do to people, is because sometimes people communicate from, their perception. So several years ago, I had the privilege of marrying a couple, officiating a wedding ceremony. And it was probably within 90 days after officiating that wedding ceremony, I once again, I considered it a privilege and an honor because the family asked me to. I had to officiate his overdose funeral.
Yeah.
So, you got to think, at first, it was a happy occasion. Same group of people out there, same group of people. It's a happy occasion. Then within 90 days, same group of people shows up. But now this individual is not alive anymore. And for me, that's the kind of avenue that I'm always coming from. Like, man, I don't got time to play games with people anymore, man.
Yeah.
I'm 43 years old. I got gray in my beard like I'm 60, and it's because I work in this environment. But I don't got time to play games with people anymore. This fentanyl epidemic that's out right now, it's too serious. People are dying at a rapid rate. I don't got time to deal with people's feelings. And I feel like, I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like I have a mandate from the Lord, and it's a mandate of urgency to try to do everything I can, as passionate as I can. And that's why I preach, teach, communicate. That's why I do everything the way that I do, because man, this thing is serious. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, I know that obviously you're a minister, Jeff. You're a counselor. You wear all these hats, okay? But I know you're in recovery yourself, man. And so how does you take all that away from Jeff? How do you take care of yourself, man? How do you keep yourself in check? Now, obviously, I know you got a great wife and Crystal and everything, but how do you kind of regulate or keep yourself in check? Whatever you want to say that, man.
Yeah. So I firmly believe that, some people call it service work, some people call serving, some people call it giving back or doing whatever. I firmly believe that when you're trying to help other people, it keeps your perspective of your personal self regulated. And I feel like it almost, people have told me years ago that, like, now I'm kind of addicted to helping people, and I guess maybe I am, I don't know. But I think at the same time, and what I'm about to say, I don't say this like I have it all figured out, because I don't always do a good job of it. But there is an art of saying no. There's an art of saying no, and there's an art of not overcommitting yourself, and there's an art of saying, "Oh man, I appreciate the opportunity, just maybe not right now." You know what I mean? And like I said, I don't always do that well, because I'm still the poster child for saying yes and overcommitting. But I've learned through the years how to try to do that. And I also think, man, that staying connected to the recovery scene. I'm connected with tons of people in recovery, man, whether it's faith-based or just people that are working 12-step sobriety or whatever that might be. I'm just connected with a lot of people. But I really believe accountability, having I have the core group of people that I feel like are just in my accountability circle, because for years, my addictions became less and better from drugs and alcohol, but I still had heavy addictions to like pornography and stuff like that. So um, this is why I really believe in like just a super holistic approach, man. Like trying to get anything that you feel like is you know, because we are all, whether people believe in Jesus or not, we're all in need of a rescue greater than ourselves. And I think that when you start to, for years, I was sober from drugs and alcohol, and I loved God, and I was still preaching and teaching, but I was still, man, I was still strung out on pornography. And then, in 2019, man, things were tough. Like, man, things were tough in my marriage. My wife knew about it, and that's not something that's not like great dinner table talk, you know what I mean, when you're sitting there
Yeah, nobody's just like,
yeah, nobody's like, hey, yeah, let's,
porn, man.
yeah, I know, you don't talk about stuff like that. So it was tough, but September of 2019, I haven't looked at pornography since then. So
Good job.
this month is 5 years now, so that's really good. And what it does is, so what happened is whenever you get sober from drugs and alcohol, that's one of those things. Especially the majority of platforms and forums that I speak at are in the religious sector, so it's at churches or small groups or something. So everybody will like clap and shout you down and be like, "Oh, praise God, free from drugs and alcohol." But it not everybody gives you that same hand clap when you're like, "Yeah, I was strung out on drugs and alcohol, and I was also strung out on pornography."
yeah.
Not everybody's like, "Woo, pornography!" They
Yeah,
don't just get excited about that,
They
you know.
get silent on
Yeah,
that
and
one.
everybody like freaks out.
Stuff.
They cover their kids' ears at
Yeah.
church
Yeah,
and
they're like,
everything,
"Whoa."
But what happened is I'd gotten, I say free, man. I was doing so well, but I still had that reservation of not wanting to deal with the pornography issue, and ultimately it was really a pride thing because I was scared of what everybody else was going to think. And then like I really had to get to a point where it was like I don't friggin' care what
Care.
anybody thinks,
Yeah.
They can build a bridge and get over it, man. I ain't
Yeah.
got time to play games with them no more.
Let's all admit, let's say 100% of the people have watched it. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
It's like, they're like, no, I've never have. It's like, you're a liar.
Yeah, you're a liar.
You're a liar.
But it's not one of those things. That's why I love, me and my wife, we go to Spirit Life Church. And that's why I just love Pastor Bobby and Pastor Pam because, they're all about, like, listen, you share your story. Pastor Bobby said it this morning. He was like, don't sanitize your story, don't try to clean it up, because what happens is when you try to sanitize it and you try to clean it up, then the person out there that is really battling something in their mind, they feel like, oh, mine's worse than theirs.
Theirs,
When
yeah.
all that person talking did was just clean theirs up some.
Yeah.
So they just let me kind of just do my thing and just be raw and stuff like that. And that's kind of, so I guess to really answer the question, man, is accountability, also staying connected with the recovery scene. But also, man, for me, I know the things that work. I know the things that keep me grounded. My smoking hot wife, she's legit. She's my biggest cheerleader. She's been with me through thick and thin. But man, I also know that I can't sit here and act like it doesn't play a huge part, because it does. But my faith and my spirituality is my foundation. And for me, I have my daily things that I do. I read the Bible, man. I read one book every month. I'm just constantly like, trying to, read different curriculum and just get different thought processes from people about stuff. But for me, man, it's accountability and staying grounded and doing the things that I know work. You know.
Man, one of our biggest, I guess, cornerstones on here, Jeff, is having hard conversations. And you brought it up earlier. We talk about pornography, sex before marriage, and that's almost taboo, especially in our culture today in the South. That's taboo. But if we really get down the core thing, I know a lot of that has ruined marriages, has ruined relationships, has ruined a lot of things in people's lives. And I'm not saying, gambling or these other
Yeah.
things that are more socially, I guess, I won't say socially accepted,
I
but
know
they're
what
just
you're
not
saying.
spoke about. But why do you think there's a stigma, not necessarily on drugs, and it's getting better, but why do people still not want to? Because, like you said, it's all the same things that are holding you back from being the best version of yourself. And because it's happening, whether we put our eyes to it or not, being naive to something or refusing to look at something does not negate that not being there,
Yeah.
right? And it still has a
Yeah.
real hold on that. So why do you think has a hold on the culture or keeping people hush hush about it, man?
I mean, I don't know. I think sometimes the more that you normalize something, it just becomes normal. You know what I mean? I think the whole at the Foundry, we teach different curriculums, and one of the curriculums we teach is called sexual purity. It's a sexual purity class, and man, it is like 13 chapters and sessions of some really really intense stuff. And yeah, I know, yeah,
The
and
guys really love that.
yeah, I know. And during session 1, 2, and 3, all the guys are in there laughing and cutting up and everything. But then it starts, hitting home, because when a lot of people, when they really think about things, and they think about, my drug addiction or whatever, didn't just have my life destroyed in shambles because of the drugs. Like, there were these crazy sexual experiences, man, that took me down a really, really dark road. And especially for, there's a lots of reasons that, like, I choose daily not to watch pornography, but one of them is, man, I don't want to have a false expectation of the way that I think mine and my wife's, relationship should be, because that's all it is. It's
It skews your perception of women,
Yeah, it
and how
does.
that relationship should go. It,
Yeah.
it deceives you
Yeah.
in a sense, man.
yeah.
I
But yeah,
remember one guy. Sorry, just to bring up funny stories. I remember sitting there at one class, and he's like, this new guy comes in. We're on like chapter 2 or 3 or something, and the dude, he's like, "So what is this book about?" And everybody's cutting up about
Yeah.
it, and he's like, "What? I didn't come here to. I came here to get sober, not teach me how to not whack my willy or something, dude." And I
He
started
did.
cracking
It
up,
was
and he was
hilarious.
so mad. He was so mad.
He was mad.
He was so
Yeah.
mad. He goes, "What kind of nonsense is this?" I don't know, man. There's a bunch of stuff at the farm. Just, it was funny. But
I think
this
it's
class it really did. Like, you
good.
look back on it, it really did teach you something if you
Yeah.
look. And like, you actually like really listen, and it's like I know some of the guys are just like, oh, like, this is repetitive, but like, you got to be repetitive sometimes, because that's how you learn, it's like, you say, I realize one thing about you, Jeff, is like, you always said things over and over, and I know why you do it now, because that's how you get people to listen. Somebody's not going to catch it over here, but you're going to say it again and be like, dang, that's what he meant. And that's what I always loved about you too, because it's never, even at the farm, and you always say it too, it's how you walk, and you gotta be conscious of it. And you taught me a lot through the farm, because you never, like, I've told you this before, is you never miss the beat. And that's one thing I can say about you, Jeff, is like, you never did. And I like, it's cool. And like, you and how you teach, even in those classes, it's like, you never skip the beat. You may have said things over and over again, but there's reasons why. And I think a lot of the guys, like, once they catch it, then they're like, oh, that's what he meant. You know, that's cool.
Yeah, so Oprah calls it an aha moment. The Bible says it's when the eyes of your understanding are enlightened. I don't care what people call it, but it is those moments where we get it, and we're like, dang,
Yeah.
that's it. You know what I mean? That's why, man. Just because it's about repetition and discipline, and just discipline your mind. Just doing the same thing, the next right thing, over and over and over again. And the more that you do that, you start to do it. And it's kind of like, for me, I tell the guys all the time that I have to discipline myself. So integrity is just doing doing the right thing when nobody's watching. So I have to discipline myself when I'm by myself. So like when I'm driving down the road and my wife's not with me and I'm driving through downtown Coleman and it's during the spring and summer months and there's these chicks that are out there jogging in halter tops and yoga shorts on, you know, when I'm driving on the road and I see them, that first look is not the bad look, you know, but it's that double take that'll get you. So I discipline myself when I'm by myself not to double take, because then what happens is the more that you double take by yourself, the next thing you know, me and my wife are going to be going to get something to eat on a Saturday during the day, and all of a sudden these chicks are going to come jogging by, and I'm so used to not disciplining myself that what happens is I double take, and then I'm like, dang, my wife's right here. And then my wife's probably going to come upside my head with a purse, you know, or something, you know.
Yeah.
But that's what it's about, man, is just disciplining yourself and doing stuff when your flesh and self doesn't want to. You know what I mean? And that's what's tough, you know. Everybody always tells me, they're like, Jeff, I want to do what you do. And I'm like, bro, no, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't want to do what I do, because there's a sacrifice. And I'm not saying I'm somebody special because I do it. People are like, I want to be able to teach or preach. And I'm like, well, you don't remember what I was doing 13, 14 years ago when I didn't have a driver's license and I was working crappy jobs and I wasn't where I'm at now. You don't want to go through that.
Yeah.
You know, you only want to be right here, right now.
You see where I'm at now.
Yeah, and
Well,
that's
sorry.
go ahead.
Well, that's what, like, it always, like, once I like really got close with you and Crystal and like Eddie and everybody at the farm, really, and I started realizing and really gaining sense about me and like what's going on. Because when you get sober, man, you got 6 months to really find yourself. That you start kind of being aware of things. So sometimes, you know, we've done stupid things, but but either way on that, I'm just saying, like, it's like I saw a lot of it there is just because like people would get like righteously mad at you and like Eddie and stuff, and like they would be like, "Ooh, they don't care about me," and like you know, and it's like I'm like, they actually do, man. They show up to work every day to make sure we're okay, you know, like and like to do things for us, like and you know, which you know, I get the 70 guys and like they're just like, why don't they care about me? But I saw it getting to know y'all. What I'm trying to say is like how busy y'all were, how many times your phone rang a day, how many, like with Eddie on his phone, like all the time, constantly in the office, and then dealing with our crazy butts, you know what I mean? Like was, you know, and you see it all the time. I don't even know how many people generate through that farm a year. I don't.
It's a lot, hundreds.
Yeah. So like, and then just seeing those faces, man. And I try to like tell people too. It's like, because a lot of people would just come to you or like Eddie or something, and they would always ask for something. They wanted to be given something, but nothing to like, what can I help you with? You know what I mean? Like help me help you, but help me, I guess, in a sense. And like that's what I really learned there is to like actually come up to y'all and have a conversation with y'all, because that's when you're really gonna learn without trying to ask y'all for something. And I'm sure I asked a lot from y'all, but if it's still, you know, I try not to. I like it's like knocking on your door every day, like you're like, what's up? And I'm like, nothing. Hope you're having a good day, you know. And just like to say things like that, you know, just to brighten somebody's day at least.
Yeah.
But I feel like it was just kind of one of those, like people don't really understand about how busy people are, or what you went through to get to that position too.
You know, when you feel like you have the call on your life to really help people into, whether it's in the ministry or in the recovery field or whatever, when you feel like you have the call, that's just not the end. You know, you have to say yes to the call.
Yeah.
And when you say yes to the call, that's when it starts to get real. You know, like, man, my wife, you know, she's working in full-time ministry now with a partner agency with where I work at. But, you know, she felt the call, but it was really tough for us to say yes to the call, because when she left a nursing supervisor position at the hospital, and she takes a 70+ grand a year pay cut,
Oh,
that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Money can't bring you sustainable joy. Money can't always give you happiness, but money does pay power bills.
Yeah.
Money does pay mortgages and car
Yeah.
payments.
Yeah.
So, when we finally said yes, and she said yes to the call and left, and took that pay cut, and then the first time that we go get our taxes done after she's working in the ministry full time, and we see that what she made at the ministry is what she got cut in taxes. You know what I mean? And it's crazy. But when you say yes to the call, that's when it gets real. And for me, don't ask me how to frame up a house. Don't ask me how to work on a car engine. I can't do any of this. That's why I didn't say yes to that call, because I'm not skilled at that. And for some reason, through all my trials and craziness of life, the Lord saw it fit to put me where I'm at, and to just give me a lot of grace to be able to help people, and to get myself to a place to where I can help people. But I feel like everybody says they want to do it and they're gonna do it, but when you say yes to the call, it's a sacrifice, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice.
Yeah, me and Chase and I, we talk about that a lot. Saying yes to a lot of things. We're at a point, in our work and everything, we say yes to a lot of things, and they don't see the Saturdays where you work 14 hours.
Yeah.
Or, you're not going out, you're going and picking up Chipotle on the way home at 9:30 at night to turn around and get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go finish something. And they see the things, they see, not that we're polished, but they see you here at times, but they're not there for the calls in the middle of the night, I'm sure you get, or people, reaching out all the time. And it's the discipline in that I know that the farm has taught me, because you're getting up look, buddy, you're getting up at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
I mean, there ain't no questions.
Yeah,
When those lights come on and everybody starts banging around, you're getting out, and it's that kind of, it had to get pounded into me.
Yeah.
Because I don't know about y'all, but I went in the greatest of shape when I came up to the farm.
Yeah.
And just how I was living. But just having people like that, with you, Jeff, but not only with you, but with everybody at the farm, it's hard to see what y'all truly do, because a lot of it's 90% behind, what eyes are seeing, but they really don't know what y'all are doing. Sending letters out, talking to people, phone calls, people, POs checking in, those type of things that you are going to battle for these people that they never, and you don't tell them anything else about.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, I got the privilege to see that because I was in the office.
Yeah.
At times, not to everything, but I was saying people answering the phones and stuff, and I was like, wow, man, it gave me a new perspective on that, man. Yeah. But I was going to ask you this too, Jeff. I know, really in your story and everything, I mean, you see a lot of guys come, like cycle in and cycle out, and I know it's a wear on you. I mean, obviously we lose people every day to this disease of addiction, man. How do you mitigate that emotion, or that, because that's draining. Look, I don't care what anybody says, man, that hurts, man.
Yeah.
I mean, is there anything you do? I mean, obviously you said about spiritually, but I mean, is there anything you do really?
And I got people that I talk to about it. You have to, man, you got to decompress, and at some point, you do got to find time to separate yourself and just do other things. And that's what's tough for me to do, because I'm a yes man. I'm a people pleaser by nature, so I'm always, I think there's only been maybe 1 or 2 vacations really in 12 years or so that been doing this that me and Crystal went on, to where I've just this past vacation we went on, we just went to the lake up to Gunnersville, and I think we were gone 5 or 6 days, and I left all cellular devices at the house. And it was almost like withdrawals.
Oh yeah.
Because I'm used to getting 75 phone calls a day.
Yeah.
And then I just left it there, and I knew, and it was almost like anxiety, because I knew when I got back that I was going to have 700, and 400 emails and all that. But you do just have to be able to separate yourself, but you also have to surround yourself by people that can help you separate yourself, because I don't always make the best decisions on my own, And for me, it's always about, it's always about, like, everywhere I go, the culture that I carry there. I know y'all just interviewed Micah Andrews, the CEO of the Foundry, and Micah's real big on culture. Like, that's all he talks about. Monthly meetings, he's talking about culture, culture, culture. And the way that you cultivate and create a culture is, it first starts with whatever is birthed into the atmosphere. Like if you are creating an atmosphere of safety and of joy and of peace, what that does, like, you either create that or you're creating a culture of anxiety and fear and dictatorship and all that kind of stuff. But when you create a culture everything is first birthed into the atmosphere from a place of peace, and like every decision we make in life comes from one or two places, love or fear. Every decision we make comes from love, a place of love or a place of fear. So when you start to birth into the atmosphere a culture of love and peace and safety and joy and no condemnation and no judging, those type of things, what that does is whatever's birthed in the atmosphere, after it starts to build in the atmosphere, then it starts to produce an environment. And after it starts to really stay in that environment for a while, and you get some consistency in that environment with what you birth in the atmosphere, then what happens is that's how a culture is created. And that's how you cultivate a culture. And for me, I just always want to create a culture to where people feel safe, they feel not judged, they feel like they can say what they want to say, and they feel like that I'm not just saying I'm here to listen, or I'm not just saying I'm here to help, but I'm really there to do it. Yeah. Because the thing that most people mess up on is whenever we as people say one thing and we do another, it makes us look dumb.
Oh, yeah.
So, we've all done it, man. We've all been guilty to do it. But what happens is when you tell people, oh, yeah, holler at me, man, I'll help you, that person remembers that. So when they call you, they're calling you because you first told them that you were there to help. So that's part of the call. When I tell people, hey, man, me and Crystal just left church a couple hours ago, and there was a guy, and I think his fiance, we were out in the parking lot talking about, and he's supposed to come to Celebrate Recovery Friday night, and I'm like, listen, man, if you need anything, our number's on the back of the bulletin, give us a call. So I pitched that to him. So I really believe that he's going to call. So when he calls, I now have to answer the phone, because when I say one thing and do something else, it makes me look dumb.
Yeah.
But whenever you start to, whatever you birth in the atmosphere, that starts to create an environment. Then after that environment is sustained for a certain amount of time, that's where culture is created. So you're really not going to meet too many people that are like, oh man, when I'm around Jeff, I just feel sad, or I feel judged, or Jeff is not passionate. You know what I mean? People don't say those things about me. Why? Because I try to create this culture of passion and hope and love and peace that becomes magnetic to people. And people can see that and they recognize that. And I think that's one thing that I try to do, man, is I just try to cultivate that culture of peace and joy,
Yeah.
You do?
I know that, man. I know, just this is my perspective, Jeff, is that I understand you can help and want to help somebody as much as, I don't know, as you're capable of. But what I found, like, there has to be an innate change within you. So I don't know if this is an objective answer you can say, but how have you drawn the line? Like, look, dude, you have to, there's some things I can't do for you, bud.
Yeah.
So how do you kind of balance that of like, all right, I'll meet you here, but you got to meet me here. If you're not doing this, and where do you cut it off at? Or how do you cut it off?
Man, I think that is another $1 million question. I try to, it's all in so whenever I speak, whether it's teach, preach, or whether I'm at a mental health forum, I don't always quote the Bible, because not everybody believes the Bible, and that comes from a place of authority. So either my argument or my pitch is good or it's bad. So I just always try to have a good pitch or topic, or I try to serve it up well. And then because words matter, people are like, well, you got to say the truth no matter what. No, you don't. That's dumb and arrogant.
Yeah.
The way that you communicate and the way that you articulate your words matter. So I try to communicate in such a way that people are at least interested, and they're like, it kind of becomes thought provoking. They're like, okay, yeah, man, I am kind of interested. And then I just try to continue to do that over and over and over again, because really, like, for what the vein that I'm in of recovery, like, Jesus was the most magnetic figure that humanity had ever seen. He would heal people and then have to tell people not to follow him. You know what I mean? So when people start to get interested in him, what he starts to do is he starts to draw. The Bible says when he's lifted up, he draws all men. So I try to serve it up and to pitch it in such a way that it becomes thought-provoking to them. But at the same time, the Bible says in Psalms to taste and see that the Lord is good. So as much as I love to eat, I can't taste for them. They have to taste for themselves. So that is what you're talking about. Like I can only do so much. We bring it to them and we serve it up on a silver platter sometimes. Like we're like, look, man, this is it. Like I know how you feel. I felt the same way, man. This is what I found. Like we do that. But at the end of the day, they got to taste and see that the Lord is good themselves. And in my opinion, for what I do, the majority of the faith-based recovery that I do, that's the way that I just always try to do it. Is I try to communicate it in such a way that it becomes interesting or at least thought-provoking. And then, because I believe if you can change the way somebody thinks, you can change your life. So I think in doing that, then they do at some point have to taste and see for themselves. And the Bible says, the Passion Translation says it in Proverbs, it says, tough love is better than flattering hypocrisy. Sometimes, man, tough love it's tough. It's tough to be like, listen, man, I've done everything I can. Like, I've helped you as much as I physically can. The things that I'm doing for whatever reason aren't working right now. Like I need, you might have to, I can't get you back into this same program again. You might have to go find somewhere else. I still love you and I'm still going to answer your call, but I can't do anything right now because now, like, the ball is literally in your court. Like, we've done all the chest passing we can. Like, you have the ball, it's in your court now. So you have to make this decision. So I think it's a really tough thing when you're, not that you're cutting people off, but it is a very tough thing when you're like, listen, I just really don't know what else I could do. Because at some point, man, they got to do it on their own. They got to, I can't get sober for anybody, It's kind of like at church. Like if you come to church, man, and we're giving altar calls, like I can't accept Jesus for anybody. It's a personal decision. So I just try to make the decision appealing and thought-provoking.
I got you. And I wanted to ask you this. It's going to come across crass, but I'm going to be honest, like, if Jesus could get everybody sober, then there would be no need for clinical, right? If the clinical side was the right way, was 100% true, there would be no need for faith-based. So I'm saying, like, not saying God can do whatever he wants, he can get you sober, but if those worked 100% of the time, there would be, I'm saying, so both of them have things they can get better on. Yeah. And you're working on both sides, and holistically, what have you seen and what have they changed to them not only become sober, live a sober lifestyle, but become better versions of themselves?
So I think it kind of, if we're talking about sobriety and abstinence for drugs and alcohol, I think that's one thing. But I think if we're talking about, like, holistic life changes, like I can remember years ago having to go to these AA meetings in Birmingham, and like I would sit there and I would listen to some guy that was chairing a group, and he had been sober for 35 years, but he still hated his freaking wife and kids. Yeah. So I'm like, your life still sucks.
Yeah, it still sucks. I drink. I'd be hammered all the time.
If your wife and daughter would probably encourage you to drink and want you to drink. Yeah. So I think that, so if we talk about abstinence, that guy had probably been abstinent from alcohol for 35 years, but his life, there was no like joy. He had no, I mean, I don't know what, so for me, I think that it's a beautiful marriage when the clinical side of things and the faith-based side of recovery, when they play well together. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful marriage, because I think both sides of recovery, of those two sides, play such a pivotal role in somebody's, well-being for sure.
But what does that look like?
What does it look like? I think
In your
that-
opinion, in
so
your
I-
opinion.
I think the worst thing that we've ever done is kind of like shamed people because they're on medications.
Like
You know,
MAT
in the,
stuff?
Yeah, in the faith-based side of things. But then at the same time, I think that sometimes clinical programs, I can remember like going to these conferences, and I would hear like the state representatives from the methadone clinics, and they would say things like, methadone does not get you high. And there's no euphoric feeling that could ever come from methadone. And then you got 500 people in the room that have all taken methadone, and they're like, what is this lady talking about? She's an idiot.
Yeah.
But then I think at the same time, on the spiritual side of things, sometimes faith-based people are like, no, you came here to get off drugs. We're not going to give you more drugs. I just feel like it's a culture thing, man. It's a culture thing to understand. Sometimes people, they just treat symptoms and they don't treat people.
Yeah.
You got to learn how to treat the person.
Yeah.
And, I think, and we can't ever, there's certain medications that I've abused before that other people, it might have kept them off heroin.
Oh, yeah.
So I can't say because I didn't do something right, and then I personally know people through some MAT therapy and MAT medication treatment centers that they can't get it. You know what I mean? The end goal is life.
Yeah.
And as long as somebody's alive, because if somebody's dead, there's nothing we can do.
there's nothing, yep.
So, do I have personal beliefs about, do I think like 5, 10, 15-year certain plans on medication are probably not productive? I mean, maybe I got some personal thoughts and beliefs behind it, but I don't know. The big thing is, for me, is, as long as we can keep breath in their lungs, then like they are still alive to make some kind of life for themselves or some kind of change for the good. So I think that what it looks like is being able to come to the table as faith-based and clinical, and just have people not trying to compete or not trying to act like their way's right, and or anything like that, and just having real conversations about what this thing looks like. Because I've been around crazy people on both sides, like both sets, the clinical, secular, and the faith-based. Man, they both have some weirdos. They both got some weirdos. So I think that when you eliminate the weirdos out of the equation and bring some people that have the well-being of the person in mind, and you just kind of have some honest conversations about stuff, and you're not just always trying to
Push your agenda,
Yeah,
push
but-
your ideology or whatever it is.
So that's what happens a lot of times, man. But I don't know. I think that I think it's a beautiful marriage when it's done correctly. And I think there are some people out there that are really, really trying. I think there's some conversations being had behind closed doors about how the marriage can get stronger between faith-based and the clinical sector. And I've been privy to a few of those conversations, so it's really honoring just to be there. But I think it's just about, being, kind of squashing our pride and admitting that maybe the way we used to do things might not have always been the best way to do it.
That's the way to do it, man. Learning, growing, evolving with the process,
Yeah.
Because 15 years ago, you couldn't have said anything about the fentanyl crisis, like the way it was going, or X amount of years ago, how it hit the scene. So you have to change, clinically, faith-based, you kind of have to shift with that and how that has hit and everything, So, but yeah, I mean, you got anything else you want to share, Joe?
No, I'm good, man. I feel
Yeah.
good. Appreciate
you're
y'all
good.
having me. Thank
yeah,
you.
man. Thank you. We
Yeah.
appreciate having you on, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you and Crystal. And
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
Chris-
tell my wife, but I think we're gonna do. We're gonna, if you guys will have us, we're gonna come on together and talk maybe sometime in October or something.
Yeah.
And don't tell my wife.
Yeah. Don't tell Crystal.
I
Huh?
won't tell Crystal.
Yeah.
We won't tell Crystal, huh?
But I want to say one thing though, is just because I love y'all so much.
Well, thank
and
you.
Just because like y'all have supported this ever since. I'm pretty sure when I ran into Crystal's office and your office, like, we're starting a podcast. We're gonna start a podcast. Like, and y'all are like, okay, and like, but y'all supported it. You know, y'all gave us like, sat us down. Like, this is what y'all need to, but really, y'all made us work on ourselves first.
Yeah.
You let us have the dream, but you also taught us how to be patient and learn about, like, to sit back and actually learn about what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's cool, and that's what I love about y'all.
Yeah.
You know.
I know we appreciate
And
it.
thank you.
Yeah. No
Yeah.
problem, man.
We appreciate y'all coming on and taking the time. I know you're very both y'all are very, very busy.
Yeah.
You wear a lot of hats like we're talking about, man. And
Yeah.
I know it's a privilege and honor for us to even sit down with us and kind of pick your brain and share your expertise on it, But I know I've learned a lot from y'all. I have.
thank
You're
you.
patient, like to love other people, meet other people where they're at.
I was just telling them, it's like, I love y'all because even still, like, y'all include me in things, and you always check up on me, and I appreciate that more than you know.
Oh, man, no problem. People have to surround themselves with people that throw gas on the fires of their passions.
Yeah.
Because what happens sometimes is people throw water and tell you to that you're not ready, or that well, I don't know if you're going to do well at that, or maybe think about something else you need to do. And I think that when you surround yourself with in a culture of people that's what they do, is they throw gas on the fires of your passions. That's when stuff like this happens. You know what I mean? It really is.
Yeah, y'all definitely gave us the courage and honestly the inspiration to almost dream crazy.
Yeah.
Like crazy stuff. And I think, obviously what we're doing now is just like, you know what? Like, yes, we can do that. Like, if other people are doing it, why not us too?
Yeah.
Why can't we do this? We put limits on it, but y'all have inspired us, not only encouraged us and supported us to dream, not just big, but like, look, let's think bigger than that. Let's go bigger. Let's try to do that, man. But we appreciate that, y'all.
Yeah.
We do, man.
Yeah. Well, man, I appreciate y'all
All
having
right,
me,
man.
man.
Yeah, dog.
Love
Thank you.
you,
Love you,
Jared.
buddy.
Love you too,
Thank
buddy.
y'all. Hey, show Jeff some love, y'all.
Million subscribers.
And subscribers.
Millions of subscribers.
Millions,
Yeah.
billions.
Peace.